and comedy don't always work, but when they do, it's a match made in heaven. In this video, I'll be counting down my personal top 10 favorite horror comedies. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy the video. Kicking off our list is Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Two hillbillies are suspected of being killers by a group of paranoid college kids camping near the duo's West Virginia cabin. As the body count climbs, so does the fear and confusion as the college kids try to seek revenge against the pair. What's so fun about this film is that it pokes fun at all the tropes you see in horror films like this, the backwoods type of hillbilly killers. Alan Tudyk and Tyler Labine are fantastic and lovable as Tucker and Dale. There's some fun slapstick comedy and some really well done gore and practical effects. The film has an overall really good pace to it, but I feel that the ending doesn't completely come together, which is why it's number 10 on this list, but it's still a film that I absolutely recommend if you're looking for a slapstick horror comedy. At number 9 is Peter Jackson's Brain Dead. When a Sumatran rat monkey bites Lionel Cosgrove's mother, she's transformed into a zombie and begins killing and transforming the entire town while Lionel races to keep things under control. If you've never seen Brain Dead, do yourself a favor and watch it right now. Hilariously over the top and full of blood, guts, and gore from the floor to the ceiling, there's never really a dull moment in Peter Jackson's Brain Dead. This is one of those movies that I recommend watching with a group of friends and a few beers and let the laughs start rolling. At number 8 is Shaun of the Dead. Shaun lives a supremely uneventful life, which revolves around his girlfriend, his mother, and above all, his local pub. This routine is threatened when the dead return to life and make strenuous attempts to snack on ordinary Londoners. Edgar Wright's Shaun of the Dead is one of the best zombie movies, period. The horror and comedy blend so seamlessly together. The buddy duo of Simon Pegg and Nick Frost is both heartwarming and hilarious. It's also got some great gore and kills, as well as a banging soundtrack. At number 7 is the criminally underrated mockumentary Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. The next great psycho horror slasher has given a documentary crew exclusive access to his life as he plans his reign of terror over the sleepy town of Glen Echo, all the while deconstructing the conventions and archetypes of the horror genre for them. This film is a love letter to the slasher subgenre as a whole. Not only do we have cameos from the likes of Scott Wilson, Robert Englund, and Kane Hodder, but Nathan Basil has created a whole new slasher icon in Leslie Vernon. And I, for one, would love to see Nathan Basil reprise his role yet again as Leslie Vernon. At number 6 is The Final Girls. A young woman grieving the loss of her mother, a famous scream queen from the 1980s, finds herself pulled into the world of her mom's most famous movie. Reunited, the women must fight off the film's maniacal killer. I fell in love with this film after the first time watching it. The Final Girls lovingly pokes fun at the camp slasher subgenre. Despite its PG-13 rating, the film never feels dumbed down. The ensemble cast seem to really gel together and have a lot of fun. Taissa Farmiga and Malin Ackerman give a convincing and heartfelt performance as daughter and mother. Not only was I laughing throughout the film, but I actually shed a couple of tears. I can guarantee that you won't listen to Betty Davis eyes the same way again. Rounding out the top 5 is The Return of the Living Dead. When a bumbling pair of employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas into the air, the vapors cause the dead to reanimate as they go on a rampage seeking their favorite food: brains. This is easily in my top 5 favorite zombie films of all time. This is a punk rock zombie movie. chock full of great practical effects, slapstick comedy, along with a colorful and hilarious ensemble cast, make for one of the most unforgettable zombie movies ever made. Sliding in at number 4 is The Cabin in the Woods. 5 college friends spend the weekend at a remote cabin in the woods where they get more than they bargained for. Together, they must discover the truth behind the cabin in the woods. This is yet another film that turns the horror genre on its head. The film is effortless in its comedy, the cast is fantastic and they gel all together so well. It's fast-paced and full of action, but never loses sight of being a horror film first. Seeing this for the first time was a joy, and going through the discovery of finding out what is underneath the cabin in the woods was a fantastic journey that I won't soon forget. At number 3 is Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2. Ash Williams and his girlfriend Linda find a log cabin in the woods with a voice recording from an archaeologist who had recorded himself reciting ancient chants from the Book of the Dead. As they play the recording, an evil power is unleashed, taking over Linda's body. Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness were films I watched a ton growing up, and still to this day, I watch The Evil Dead at least once or twice every year. Bruce Campbell is Ash Williams. His comedic timing, physicality, and good looks make him the perfect leading man. Adding in the superb direction of Sam Raimi, along with creative practical effects and creature designs, make for one of the best horror movies of all time. Taking the number 2 spot is What We Do in the Shadows. Vampire housemates try to cope with the complexities of modern life and show a newly turned hipster some of the perks of being undead. This is one of the few films that I've seen in theaters where I was crying laughing. This and Best in Show are 2 of my favorite comedy mockumentaries. The cast is incredibly talented and hilarious. There's not one single wasted scene. Every scene has a purpose, and every scene is hilarious. I love and adore What We Do in the Shadows. But if there's one film that has my heart for eternity, it is Young Frankenstein. A young neurosurgeon inherits the castle of his grandfather, the famous Dr. Victor von Frankenstein. In the castle, he finds a funny hunchback, a pretty lab assistant, and the elderly housekeeper. Young Frankenstein believes that the work of his grandfather was delusional, but when he discovers the book where the mad doctor described his reanimation experiment, he suddenly changes his mind. The talent behind this film is extraordinary. Mel Brooks is one of my favorite directors. I find his films to be endlessly hilarious. This is my favorite ensemble cast out of any comedy I've ever seen. Plus, the cast is stacked. Gene Wilder, Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, Cloris Leachman, and Madeline Kahn, just to name a few. This was also one of my pops' favorite movies, so whenever I watch this film, I feel like I'm watching it with my pops. Which is why Young Frankenstein is my number 1 favorite horror comedy of all time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, get your name in the opening credits along with some other awesome perks, become a Patreon today. Link is in the description below. Thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you guys on the next video.